This is Musical Minutes, a series that explores the fascinating tales behind some of the best-known works in classical music. Talent recognizes talent. For Ludwig van Beethoven, his performances at the piano had brought him recognition and fame throughout Europe, as well as giving him a chance to rub shoulders with some of the best and brightest virtuosos at the time. One of these virtuosos was Franz Clement. Although he was barely a teenager when Beethoven first met him in 1794, he was already well established as a talented violinist. Beethoven was so impressed by Clement's skill on his instrument that he praised the 14-year-old, saying, "Nature and art vie together with each other in making you a great artist." A professional yet personable friendship quickly developed between the two musicians, culminating in 1806 when Beethoven began work on his Violin Concerto. Now, as was often the case at the time, musical works were built to the demands of the concerts that featured them, and Beethoven's new concerto was composed super quickly. You might struggle to notice this from the music itself. The large and sophisticated opening movement elevate the work almost to a level of expression that could rival a symphony. However, the hour was late when Beethoven finally delivered the completed parts to Clement, and the failure of the ensuing premiere could hardly come as a surprise. Beethoven himself may have left everything to fate when he wrote on the manuscript, "Concerto by Clemency for Clement." Reports at the first performance suggested that Clement was sight reading and allegedly interrupted the concerto to perform a circus trick on the violin held upside down. Although there was a deafening applause at the ending, critics were conflicted and thought this had more to do with the performer than the composer. Although Clement would perform the concerto a handful of times in later years, it eventually slipped into obscurity, even as Beethoven's fame as a composer continued to rise. It took nearly 40 years, actually, for the work to receive recognition, following the revival efforts of Felix Mendelssohn. A champion of forgotten works and forgotten composers, Mendelssohn had actually spearheaded the landmark performance of Bach's St. Matthew Passion in 1829 that almost single-handedly transformed Bach's reputation into a visionary genius. Now, fast-forwarding ahead to 1844, Mendelssohn turned his sights to Beethoven's neglected Violin Concerto, conducting the work in a London concert with the 12-year-old violinist Joseph Joachim performing, and critics adored the performance. While the majority of Beethoven's compositions enjoyed success during the composer's lifetime, a few, such as the Violin Concerto, proved to be too ambitious and progressive even for normally enthusiastic audiences. But with the rise of Romanticism in the 19th century, tastes eventually caught up, and the concerto has maintained pride of place ever since as a centerpiece of the classical repertoire.